And now a moment with Dr. Stephen M. Stahl. What's the future of personalized medicine in psychiatry?
Genomic testing is entering all of medicine today, but perhaps in psychiatry we're a little bit later to the party here than everybody else. In psychiatry, we don't have any diagnoses for diseases because we don't have any diseases. So we have syndromes. So there can't be a genetic marker for a syndrome, and we don't actually expect there ever to be one. So the genomics for testing diagnoses in psychiatry is a long way off. We might get genes that tell us whether we're likely to have an inefficient circuit that would give us a symptom, and therefore some genomics might tell us the risk for mental illness, but since we don't even know how to define them, and we're changing the categories all the time, it's not likely to be a diagnostic breakthrough in psychiatry for genomics. If you ever read the PDR, that awful big book with the small font size, you'll see in that basic information about cytochrome metabolism of drugs that tell you whether a drug will either be a substrate for being metabolized by a cytochrome or whether it's an inhibitor of that cytochrome. And you can get genetic tests of those cytochromes, but we don't do that. Why? Because all it does is tell you more likely whether the person's going to need a higher or a lower dose, and we tend to figure that out by trial and error rather than waiting to give the drug, spending $100 or whatever to get the genomic testing and then prescribe the drug. By the time we get that all back, we already know what the answer is. It's not like in chemotherapy where you actually have life-threatening effects from cancer chemotherapy. The real future is going to be whether or not certain genes tell us whether a certain drug will work. You may have heard of this as a companion diagnostic. We're not there yet, but there are several candidates, and we're looking very hard. But my prediction is that where the genomics is going to come through is going to be in the area of companion therapeutics, really, to tell you whether or not a certain drug might work, not whether it necessarily have a side effect or what your diagnosis is. Finally, once you have it, in psychiatry, I don't ever think it's going to be a yes-no answer. It's going to be the weight of the evidence. Equipoise, remember that term, equipoise. It means how you weigh things. Sometimes you have controversial evidence. Sometimes you've got contradictory evidence. And the art of being a good psychiatrist is to actually be able to sift through that and nevertheless, despite of controversy or of contradictions, make an action plan. I think that genomics testing will just add the weight of the evidence to more likely than not that a drug will work. It won't tell you, yes, it will work always, or no, it will work never. Don't look for that kind of test to come out. But right now, we already have a number of genomic tests that say that you're more likely to respond to a drug or less. And I believe that in that vein, it'll be useful to have, because as I think myself, and I think you'll agree, more information is better than less. But it will be equipoise. Remember that word that is the genomic testing in psychiatry.